Hey guys, so I was in the garden today harvesting some fruits and vegetables, and I noticed we're starting to see a population increase of wasp hornets and even yellow jackets. And so I've actually found one yellow jacket nest in a further part of the yard and one wasp nest close to a doorway entry. It was still in its early stages, but it was there. So I'm going to show you a trap today that you can simply put together. It's very easy and it's extremely effective on getting rid of wasp hornets and yellow jackets, not only in your yard, but this will expand out to the whole neighborhood because you're collapsing the nest by using this special method. Now, when I say collapsing the nest, the reason that is because wasp hornets and yellow jackets are social insects. By this, I mean they live in colonies and they work together to grow the young and keep the colony going and even reproduce those colonies into new colonies. So I'll show you a very quick way to do this, but first I just want to say a few words about each one. Yellow jackets are very highly aggressive. If you get close to them with a lawnmower or even just walk by the nest, they can attack you quickly. Now, in some parts of the country, they refer to yellow jackets as ground wasps, but I've always heard them called yellow jackets here in the deep south. And they can forage for food and things that they need, proteins and sugars for their nest. They can go up to 1 mile away. So that's what I mean when I say it could collapse nest from up to 1 mile away from where you live. So that's how yellow jackets factor into this. Let's move on to wasp. Now wasp, you've probably seen one, a nest hanging from the eave of a house or in a doorway, and they can be slightly less aggressive than yellow jackets or hornets, but they can still be aggressive if you provoke them. So they're a little bit less likely to take this product we're putting into our trap back to the colony and killing everybody off. But it's usually by accidental contamination that they do bring it back to their nest and collapse the entire colony just by contamination, by touching what we're putting into our bait trap. Now hornets are the same way. They can go out quite a ways from their nest and they're extremely good hunters. They can be attracted to smells very quickly. So that's one of the reasons we're putting in one of the ingredients for hornets. So I'm going to show you how to put this together really quickly. You can assemble everything and have this working in less than 10 minutes. Now the first thing we want to do is just take an ordinary 2-liter soda bottle, and probably to do this I would recommend putting on a pair of gloves because we're going to be using a really sharp razor blade, and if you're not careful you can cut yourself easy, and these bottles tend to collapse a little bit as you're working on them. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut about a 1/2 inch strip out of the plastic on both sides of the bottle. So you just want to be really careful with this. And let's see, I've got to lock this razor blade in place. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a small 1/2 inch strip about halfway from the bottle up to maybe closer to the top. I'll give you a quick demonstration here. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see that because of the light, but anyways, we've cut about a 5 to 6 inch strip out of it, and it's about a 1/2 inch in thickness. We're going to do the same thing on this side of the bottle. So this is our lure trap. As I said, there's 2 openings on each side, and this is going to make it easy for our wasp to get in. But we also wanted to add one more thing to this lure trap before we put the bait in, and I'll show you exactly how to create the bait. But we need to make sure they're able to get back out of this trap. This is not a trap where they're going to stay in it, but again, this is called a lure trap that we're going to collapse the entire colony. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take half an orange and set the other half aside, and then we're going to cut the first half into some very, very thin strips, less than 1/4 inch. So we can easily get it into our trap. If they're too big, we're not going to be able to get it through the opening. So again, we're only using half an orange for that side, and just be careful with your fingers because it's easy to cut yourself. And there we go. That's our first half of our orange, and the second half we're just going to cut it into quarters. Then we're going to take a second orange and do the same thing, cut it into 1/4. And we don't need to cut this second orange into thin strips. We're going to use this for the juice. And so there you go. We have total 6 different quarters, and I don't think I've quartered this one yet. And so then we have our thin slices that will actually go into the trap. We're just collecting the juice from these oranges here. Now next, get as much of the juice out into a container, and I'm just going to use this mason jar to collect as much as we can. And if we have to, we can go back and get another orange. But remember, we don't need a massive amount of the juice from these oranges. We're just going to need about, I'd say about 2 or 3 ounces. And then we'll discard these quarters that we've created and go on to our next item we have in our bait. And so there we go. We've just got a few ounces of this in our mason jar. Okay, so the next thing we're adding is about half a tablespoon of just plain white sugar. And you can use honey, you can use cane sugar, whatever you want to use, and just mix that well in our orange juice mix. And we want to create a fermentation process that will put out a really strong odor, the smell of over-ripened fruit. So that's what's going to really draw in the hornets, wasp, and especially the yellow jackets. You're going to probably see more yellow jackets in this trap than anything else. Now, as I said earlier, hornets are especially attracted to strong odors. So we're going to put in 2 tablespoons, probably overflowing tablespoons, of apple cider vinegar. We really want this trap to put out a really strong odor, and that will absolutely attract the hornets as well as yellow jackets and wasps. But hornets are very, very well known to come into strong odors, and they're very good hunters, so they'll definitely be wanting to get into the trap to see what's in there. Now, we've added our sugary smells, our rotten fruit smells, but there's still a protein we need to add, because during different times of the year, wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets may be searching not necessarily for something sweet like this, but they will be looking for more of a meat protein. So we're going to add that in just a sec. But there's something else we need to add to the liquid portion of our bait. Now, this is wet cat food, and somebody had asked me why their trap wasn't working as well as they thought it would, and I looked at the can and they were using a fish based. You want to either use a beef or chicken based, because the fish is not going to work as well. So we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of this wet cat food to our mix. A little sticky there. And we don't want to completely dissolve this. We just want to break it up into chunks and kind of let it float around in there into our mixture. Now, next we're going to add the key ingredient. Now, our key ingredient is boric acid, and that's what's going to get tracked back to the nest. It's going to be brought back to the nest. Our food products are going to be contaminated with it. Our bait products are going to be contaminated with it. They're going to feed it to the larvae and the queen of the nest, and also the other workers, and that's what's going to collapse the nest very quickly. Now, you can try using this borax washing powder. I think it would work okay, but I've got a link in the description to what I think is the better. This is 99.9% pure boric acid, and this is going to work much, much better. And you only need 1 teaspoon of this mixed into our liquid bait. You need to make sure you mix it well, because you want it to be dispersed evenly in the liquid, and make sure it's on the cat food. Now, we're taking 1 teaspoon, as I mentioned, of boric acid granulated powder. It's not highly toxic, but you do want to keep this out of reach of your pets and children, because it could cause digestive problems. So it would take quite a bit of the boric acid to harm anyone. But again, since we're using this as an insecticide, we want to keep it out of the reach of our pets. So just make sure you mix it lightly, and it kind of stirs. It's going to stick to the cat food. It's going to get into the juices. And so this is the key component of our lure-based trap that will collapse 99.9% of the wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets within a 1 mile radius of where you live. Now, I've taken our razor blade and I've cut a little bit more across the bottom so we can get our orange slices in there, and also we'll be able to get our toxic mix here back in there easier. But we want to put these in there so the wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets can have an easy time getting out. This is not a trap where we want them to die in the trap, but we want to use this trap as a way for them to destroy their own colonies. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to try to keep from making a mess, but we want to pour our mixture into the cat food, the apple cider vinegar, and the orange juice all back into our 2-liter bottle. And so you can move this around, close this back up. And so we've got a perfect opening that hummingbirds cannot get into. It's too narrow. Most of your animals out in the out of doors are not going to be able to get in here. Maybe a raccoon or squirrel might be able to climb up. So that's why I'm going to put it in a very special way out of their reach. But once you have it in there, you want to stir it up a little bit. Try to keep your cat food together in 1 or 2 pieces, and just kind of let everything be coated with our orange juice mixture. Now, what I've noticed is some of the cat food is under our orange slices, so we want to make sure that our cat food, a lot of it is on the surface, and you'll need to mix it one more time, but we want to make sure that yellow jackets have access to that because they are very well known for getting any type of meat. If you've ever been on a picnic and you set your ham sandwich down, before long you'll have yellow jackets swarming around it. So we want a pretty good sized chunk, but remember we need to make sure that it gets contaminated with our orange juice toxic mixture there. Now setting this up to trash cans and things like that is a great idea because that's an area where often yellow jackets and wasp and things like that are going to it looking for a food source. So they may already be in the habit of going to that area. So trash cans are an ideal area, but you want to set it up away from anywhere where you might have a picnic table or a patio, anywhere your family is going to be congregated. Because even though this is it's a lure trap, but it's not a trap where they're going to stay inside of it. We want them to come back out. So they're going to be going in and out. So you just want to make sure you keep it away from where your family might be barbecuing and having an outdoor day. So you kind of put this away from the house anywhere from 20 to 40 feet. Now, as I said earlier, you want to make it easy for the wasp to get back out of the trap. And so that's where these paint sticks come in. We're going to break the paint stick right in half. And we want to put one half down one side and then the other half down the opposing side. And so this makes it easy for the wasp hornets to get into the nest and back out. So you just want to make it as easy as possible, but they still need access to the food. So if for some reason they get trapped and can't find their way out, these paint sticks are great. Now you can also smear a little bit of cat food halfway down the paint stick to allow the wasp to get a taste, and the hornets and the yellow jackets a taste for what's in the trap, and that'll make them want to come back even more, and you might find that it just increases their numbers coming to your bait station. Now, if for some reason you found a dead wasp hornet or yellow jacket in your trap, you don't want to leave it in there. You want to remove it. So you can take a long pair of tweezers or some chopsticks and just scoop it out, because we want to give the impression that this is a very safe place, and if the wasp, yellow jackets, or hornets see dead compadres in there, they may not want to go in there. So we want to make it seem as the safest way possible. So if any do die, just take something like a pair of tweezers and get them out of there. Not likely to happen because we've created those bridges for them to get back out. But just in case, I'll just give you that tip, because that could be a reason that you might have one dead wasp in there, but no others are visiting the nest. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to create a little hanger here. We're going to do this out of some garden twine I have around the greenhouse. We'll cut a small piece and cut a loop in the top of it and then tie that off so we can use it as a hanger, and then we'll tie the other end to the top of the bottle. So we've got a way to hang it up high to make sure no other animals can get easy access to it. Okay, so I'm going to tie the other end around the top of our bottle, and then I'm going to take it out to the garden and show you exactly how to hang it. Now I would recommend that you make more than one of these, maybe even putting one on each of the four corners of your property, so you can keep the wasp going in and out away from your home and back to wherever they're nesting at, and you can collapse the population for, like I said earlier, up to a mile from where you live. Now I wanted to show you a close-up of this Goya plant, and it has some flowers on it, and this is what honeybees spend all day doing, going from flower to flower, looking for nectar and building up their supply of honey. So if you're worried about honeybees in this trap, it's very unlikely. If one gets in there, it'll usually be by accident. They're going to be looking for flowers, but the other things we were talking about, wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets, they're more hunters, and they're looking for a different type of protein. So honeybees are normally getting their proteins from these type of flowers. Now I've hung our bottle about 4 to 5 feet off the ground, and you want to make sure you make it very difficult for any climbing animals to get in here. Our sliver there is too small for birds. They won't go inside of it. But just make sure that you keep it out of reach, away from the ground, to stop any type of animal from getting there, especially raccoons. That's probably going to be the most probable animal that's going to try to get in here. Now we're in a dry spell right now, and I'm not so worried too much about rain getting in each side, but if we were in the rainy season, I would take one of these pie pans, cut a small hole in it, and use it as kind of an umbrella. So it would kind of keep the rain out, and the concentration of our mix would not get diluted, so our boric acid would still stay very potent. So just remember, if you're in the rainy season, take a pie pan, cut a hole in it, and then set it on there before you tie it off. So there's 3 very common mistakes people make. If you want to double or triple the boric acid because you really want to make it potent, that sometimes in itself can repel the wasp hornets or yellow jackets. So just remember, stick to the formula because it is the right amount. The second thing can be placing the traps too close to human activity. If you have a barbecue area or play area for your kids, it can attract bees to the areas where they're at. So you want to make sure that you place it where it doesn't have that chance. Another thing is this has to be refreshed probably once a week. So check on it about every 5 to 6 days and then mix up another batch of orange juice and just pour it on there. You may have to add a little bit of cat food. It's not going to evaporate, but you might just add a quarter of a teaspoon at the end of each week if you don't see it in there. If they're consuming it so fast, then it could not in evaporation, but they're eating it so quickly, you'll need to replace that as well. So it's the perfect little trap because the bees are not going to drown in the liquid. They're going to easily get back out on the ladders we've created or the bridges, and they're going to fly back to their colony. So the optimum time to do this is in late summer because fall is the time they're looking for the most nutrients, the protein, the meats, and the sweets for their nest. So they're out hunting vigorously. It will work in the spring and it does work during the summer, but the fall is the optimum time. So make 3 or 4 of these, place them around your yard, and you'll find that the population in the coming years will collapse. Like I said earlier, it's perfectly safe for honeybees. I wouldn't put one of these right next to, if you're a type of person that does, you're a beekeeper is what I'm trying to think of. If you're a beekeeper, don't put this right next to the trap because it might draw in predators and enemies of the honeybee. So you just want to keep that, again, away from honeybees. Now I'm always experimenting and creating new traps, and I have created similar traps to this, but not exactly. The recipe is a little bit different this time. So try this and I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised with the results. If you have a question about this video or any previous video, I get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments a day, and it's really hard to answer anybody. So I'd ask that you please become a public subscriber first, and that's the way I filter all my comments, because I want to give those people that have done me the great favor of becoming a public subscriber an answer to their question as accurately and as honestly as I can. So guys, my library on YouTube is over 250 videos now, and I don't plan to stop anytime soon. But I've also added a Patreon, and those videos may never make their way to YouTube. There's some early release content and some videos, like I say, that I'm just gonna leave them on Patreon. So if you're interested in supporting the channel in another way, I really would appreciate it. Take a look at that. The link is in the description. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.